Hello.
Hello.
I'm your moderator for today.
Hi, thank you.
So I will get things started and hand it off to you, and
Okay.
I can keep an eye on the chat as well.
Okay.
And I will also be giving you a like 5-minute warning, depending on
Okay.
what's happening.
Sure.
Um, yeah, so this session will go to 10:45, so the warning would be about at 10:40.
Okay. Sounds
But
good.
yeah, is there anything else?
So do I have, can I test making sure that my PowerPoint is visible and all
Yes.
that? So I should have controls right now. Is that
You
right?
should give it a try.
Okay. So let's see. Sorry, this always happens with me with multiple screens. That's why we do a tech check, right? Like what's opening up on what
Yes.
screen? Okay. So let's see. Sharing is not turned on. So I guess I'm just going to
Okay.
request it.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, I think we might need our Pima tech person to add you as a co-host.
I am
Okay.
on it.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
and could you add Franklina as well, since I'm going to stop sharing after my portion of the presentation, and then she's going to take over
Okay.
controls.
Yeah, it looks like Franklina might already have
Oh,
co-host
good.
I
Okay.
privileges, so
do.
You got a
just
couple of
Nancy.
minutes
Excellent.
if you want to give it a shot, though. Like just
Yeah,
click it
Okay.
and see if it works for you.
feel free
Okay. So
to try everything first.
okay.
You all
So let's
sound
see.
great, by the way, so that's good.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. All right. So let me move stuff to different screens so things are showing up where I want them to. It's just slideshow. It always happens to me. Everything opens up. Okay. Share. Okay. All right. Is my screen visible?
Working on it.
It's thinking.
Yes. Okay, now we can see it. Yeah.
We can see it? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
looks good.
So when you hand it over to me, do you do any intro or do I just begin?
I can. I was probably just gonna say, and now our presenters
Okay.
can start, unless you would like me to do an actual introduction.
No, no, not necessary.
It's up to you.
I'm just going to introduce myself
That's
briefly.
what I
So,
figured. So,
okay.
yeah, I'll just say I'll just get us started and welcome everybody, and then I'll hand it off to you pretty quickly. So,
Okay. Sounds good.
yeah. Um, I don't know if both of you have had the chance to upload your slides to our Google folder.
I
Um,
did. Yeah.
okay.
I created a folder
Okay,
with the
cool.
name of our
Good.
presentation, and then I uploaded them earlier this morning.
Awesome. Then we're good.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Can I
So,
also try sharing my screen?
yes.
Okay. Sure. Let me go ahead and stop my share. There we go. So I stopped share. So Franklin, you want to try? Okay, excellent.
All right, then.
I can see it. Yep.
Sure, thank you. I can't stop sharing now.
Oh no. There
There
we
we
go.
go. Okay. All right, now back to me. Let's see, share screen two. And Carolyn, I'll ask you, and maybe this is a question for someone else. I noticed that when I uploaded, since this is a PowerPoint, when I uploaded to the Google Drive folder, some of the formatting was lost, which makes it a little bit inaccessible for some of the fonts.
Mm,
Basically, like the backgrounds blend in with some of the text. So will I have
yeah.
the opportunity to basically to do something about that? I don't want it to be inaccessible.
Yeah. Let me look at. Yeah, I think you should be able to. Is it because it's a PowerPoint?
It's a
Yeah.
PowerPoint, and then I'm sure it was because it was translated from PowerPoint into Google Slides.
Yeah, I think you should still have like editing ability on
Okay.
it since you uploaded it. If not, you can
Okay.
let Chelsea, I think has the permissions on the folder, Chelsea James know.
Mm-hmm.
And she can hopefully get that figured out.
Okay. All right. I will deal with that after the fact. For the purposes of our right now, it seems fine. So
Yeah, no, it looks like it works for now for there. Okay.
uh,
And we're at 10:15. So we can go ahead and get started. People might continue to come in while we're going, but welcome everybody. Um, yeah, okay, go. I'll go ahead and hand it off to our presenters.
okay. All right. Thank you. My name is Nancy Henke. I am the Textbook Affordability Librarian at the University of Northern Colorado, and I will let my co-presenter introduce herself.
I am Franklin Ade, a graduate student studying applied statistics and research method, and also an affordable and open educational resource graduate assistant at University of Northern Colorado.
And our presentation today is Empowering Students as Advocates, Advancing OER Awareness by Collaborating with Student Employees. And before I begin, I will say I was actually quite pleased to see, I feel like a healthy number of sessions at this conference about student advocacy. So hopefully this offers something new and different, or perhaps new ideas for to kind of complement what has already been presented on in some other excellent sessions. So our agenda for today, I will basically discuss an overview of the student AOER work that's been happening on our campus for the past few years. Then I will detail some specific projects that our student advocates have undertaken. And then I will discuss how, as a supervisor, I've worked to harness the specific backgrounds and experience of the students that I've worked with to tailor projects to their background and experience. And then I will discuss from my perspective the value of having student advocates as employees doing this work. So I will let Franklina talk about what she will be presenting.
Thank you very much. So I'll be talking about my personal journey with OER and then the impact on research and applied statistics, my current course at University of Northern Colorado, and also the global perspective of OER. And finally, we can ask some questions.
Yes, some Q&A, some discussion. And we're a small group, so hopefully we can have a nice conversation. Thank you. All right, so let me go ahead and start by giving you an overview of student AOER work at our university. Now, just so we're all clear on definitions, when I'm referring to AOER, I'm referring to affordable and OER. Now, I'll spare the audience my librarian discussion of how we define the differences between affordable and open. It's a little outside the scope of this session, but I will say that when I refer to AOER, I'm referring to both. And then I'll also point out that I am going to speak specifically about the two students I have worked with in the past 2 years. There was a student employee who was funded for this program before I started. Her name was Teresa Henderson. It was the 2020-2021 academic year. Unfortunately, I never had the pleasure of knowing Teresa. I began in 2023. So my discussion will be focusing on the student employees I've worked with over the past 2 school years. So the person that you're seeing in the photo on the slide is Ethan Roth. Ethan was our student worker in the 2023-2024 academic year. Ethan is an undergraduate in psychology, and he worked for our program a full 20 hours a week, and his position was grant funded. So the Colorado Department of Higher Education offers grants to higher education institutions in the state of Colorado to fund various types of OER work, adoption, adaptation, professional development, all these things. And so in the 2023-24 school year, there was funds written into the grant to fund a student employee. So that's how we were able to fund Ethan. Now, because of changes to the amounts that the state of Colorado offers each grant cycle, I had fully expected not to have a student employee this academic year because they had lowered the caps on how much we could apply for certain types of work. So I actually had a lovely experience working with Ethan last year, but I had fully expected not to have a student at all this year simply because of the way that the funding changes each year. However, I had the pleasure of working with Franklina, who you will hear from. So Franklina is a graduate student at UNC in applied statistics and research methods, and she works approximately 9 hours a week for our program for AOER. So her position is very unique. It is a graduate assistant position, which means it comes with tuition waiver, stipend, and it is actually split between my program. She also does a little bit of work with the scholarly communication department in the libraries more generally. So most of her work is with me. Some of it was scholarly communication. And then approximately half of her hours actually are for the graduate school. So working in the graduate school. So it's a kind of a hybrid position between 2 different units, and it's fully funded by the graduate school itself. And one of the reasons that I kind of point this out is because, one, of course, I'm grateful and very pleased to have the ability to work with Franklina this year. But also, this position was born out of conversations between someone rather high up in the library's leadership, someone rather high up in the graduate school leadership, talking about the work that we were doing in AOER, and how there could be kind of a convergence of work between the two units. And this position was born. So we're really fortunate, and I think speaks to the power of what we've been doing with AOER on campus, the fact that someone so high up in the graduate school is willing to kind of entertain this kind of hybrid position to help advance our initiatives. So specifically, the student projects that I've worked with had the students kind of engage in. I'm going to talk about sort of categories. And then on some of the next slides, I'll talk about some of the specifics of the ins and outs of some of the projects that they've engaged in. But generally speaking, they fall into basically 3 buckets. One bucket is marketing and promotion. The people who do this work, probably people who are listening to this right now, know very well how much there is marketing and promotion involved in the types of things we do, trying to get the word out to both students and faculty and administrators, all these stakeholders. And so one kind of bucket of work, a quite big one, is marketing and promotion. And there's lots of different things kind of associated with that. I will detail some of those in the future slides, but I have some examples of that type of thing that are kind of coming on my visual. A second kind of bucket or pool of projects has to do with data and our website. So as much as there is also marketing and promotion, there's also paying attention to the details of how things are working. So we have some data work, especially because we do have a grant program. So keeping tabs on the data associated with who's getting grants, what courses they're working with, that kind of thing is very important, as well as working with our websites. So if there's any librarians in the audience, they'll be familiar with the term LibGuides. LibGuides is a library content management system for creating library websites. And so we have a lot of public-facing OER-related pages that the students have helped me maintain, update, and develop further. And then also outreach and advocacy. So this involves going out into not just doing marketing, but also going out and meeting with different groups, different individuals, and helping spread the word in that way. And so the student employee has done a lot with that, including being, for instance, a liaison to student government, outreach to new faculty. And I'll talk a little bit about those, some of those specifics on future slides. So these are kind of the general pools of the types of things that the student employee advocate has been helped kind of advance our program. Now, but because I work I'm essentially in my program, I'm a one-woman show and have had the pleasure of working with students for the past 2 years, because I feel like I have the opportunity to tailor some of the work that the students do to who they are as individuals. But I'm working to balance, and I don't, you would have to ask Franklina how well I achieve this balance, but I work to achieve a balance between what must be done and the specific student, who they are and what they desire, and the types of projects they would like to do. So in terms of what must be done, the student who's in this position must help with events and promotion. Next week, Open Education Week is a prime example. Franklina will be spending some time tabling when we do tabling in different outlets next week. And so that type of work is absolutely necessary, and helping promote those events. There are also other types of things, such as video editing and transcription, because we do various professional development activities, different panels, interviews, that type of thing, to help communicate what we're doing and how we're doing it. But we're not going to release those unless they're accessible. So making sure that those videos are trimmed down, that we have good transcriptions so that we can ensure that they are fully accessible. That type of work is something that is really vital, but can be very time consuming. And so that is the type of work that I absolutely have needed help with from the students. I mentioned on the previous slide that working with our website with LibGuides has been very important, developing new pages, fleshing out the pages that currently exist. And definitely by far, in terms of this falls into the marketing promotion bucket, social media posts have been very important. So the university libraries has an Instagram and Facebook accounts. And we have dedicated posts to AOER every other Tuesday. And so we have this kind of constant touch point opportunities to educate students, get them involved, and creating those social media posts is a very, very important part of what must be done by the student employee, in part because I don't use Instagram. And so Franklina this year and Ethan last year have been very patient with me about some of my very non-Instagram user questions about the kind of user experience of Instagram. And so creating those social media posts has been very important. So we have the what must be done, the things I must have help with. But then we have the unique interests of the specific student. So Franklin is going to talk a little bit about that more fully in her portion of the presentation. But I'm trying to balance, like, what is it that the specific student, what strengths they bring to the table and what interests they have. And so I have these kind of categories here, which I will detail on this slide. So last academic year, when I worked with Ethan had a graphic design background. He was very interested in art. He is a psychology major, but he had a secondary interest in art, graphic design. And so because he had a graphic design background, he had some knowledge of Adobe Creative Cloud products so that he could use both Canva to create things, but also he had some more specialized knowledge. I tasked him with creating flyers and handouts that we have used in different contexts. I also tasked him with creating an infographic that we've used to communicate the impact of some of our grant program, our grantees, the number of people we funded, quotes from students. And we use that infographic in, again, various contexts to various stakeholders to help them ensure that we're getting the message out in a visually pleasing and kind of digestible way. And I've mentioned the website multiple times because it is a big portion of having communication to outside audiences. But because Ethan had kind of a background in graphic design, he was able to do try some different things with the website pages that he created to try to kind of flex his graphic design muscles a little bit when he was developing pages for us. Another thing that I tried to do to tailor some specific projects to Ethan's strengths is that Ethan was very comfortable with interpersonal communication and public speaking. And so because of that, one of the things that we tasked him with was outreach to new faculty. In fall of last academic year, he contacted a number of new faculty. He contacted them by email and reached out to them, set up time to go to their office hours, brought them a goodie bag of swag from our program, and spent a few minutes chatting with them about OER, what we do, why it's important. And he felt completely comfortable just emailing someone out of the blue, dropping by their office hours and doing that. And so we leveraged that to help advance understanding among new faculty about our program. Another very important project that Ethan undertook last year that aligned with his strengths is that he did a series of faculty interviews. And he, from start to finish, this was his project. He identified 3 different former grantees who he reached out to. He set up interviews. He developed the interview questions. He recorded them in our recording studio in the libraries. He edited the videos. He did the transcription. He did all of it. And that really aligned as a big project. And it really helped advance our program because the information from those interviews we've used in all sorts of contexts. We put them in different places. But also he really liked video editing, but he had done it a little bit prior to working with us, but he hadn't done it a lot. And so he got a lot of opportunity to do that with that project. He also acted as a panel moderator. We did a faculty and student panel last spring with faculty and students who were in their OER classes talking about their experiences with OER. And he did a lovely job moderating the panel. And then also he presented with me at a conference, me and another person from our university. He was a panelist at the Colorado OER conference last year. Now, Franklina because Franklina is at a different kind of stage of her academic journey. She has a very different background. Franklina, as an applied statistics and research methods graduate student, she's very comfortable with data, as you might imagine. So I actually gave Franklina the opportunity to do some work in our OER grant spreadsheets. I'm a little bit possessive of those because ultimately they didn't exist until I started working here and created them. And there's a lot of information in there that it would be a shame if it somehow got deleted or there were mistakes made. And so I'm a little possessive of those, but I very much trust Franklina to do work in our spreadsheets. She's also currently undertaking a project where she's analyzing the statistics from our LibGuides. So the LibGuides platform does allow people to see kind of hits to their pages. And what we're trying to understand is if we can correlate spikes in visits to our page with certain types of outreach that we've done. And that's a project Franklin is actually currently undertaking to examine those statistics so that we can tailor our outreach and advocacy better if we can find some patterns within those statistics. And she's also a member of the AOER committee's course marking and assessment subcommittee. So we have a larger AOER committee, multiple subcommittees. And because we do have course markings at our institution, there's a lot related to data feeds, different stakeholders, reporting information. So we do have a subcommittee, and Franklina has been involved in that this school year. And then finally, Franklina has a really unique perspective, not only as a graduate student, but as a first-generation international graduate student, which she will talk about a little bit in her portion of the presentation. So she wrote a blog post for our AOER committee blog, talking a little bit about her background and kind of how it informs her work. She is a member of our Open Education Excellence Award Selection Committee this year. So I feel like she's going to bring her unique perspective into choosing the recipient of our Open Education Excellence Award. And of course, she is presenting with me today at this conference. So before I pass it on to Franklina, I'm just going to say this is the value of having a student employee advocate. This is from my perspective. Now, of course, the student themselves might have a different perspective or be able to add on to this. But from my perspective, we get value to the program and to the student. So, of course, the importance of a student perspective. As I say, I'm a one-woman show. I do have advisory assistance from our larger university AOER committee. But because of the importance of this work to the student experience, having a student perspective is vital. And so having that student perspective on some of the work that we're doing, especially when we're doing outreach to students in particular, has been absolutely vital. I was able to have projects completed that would not have been done otherwise. That series of faculty interviews that Ethan did, we've used in all sorts of different ways, all sorts of different contexts. And that simply would not have been done had it not been for having a student employee, because it's the type of project that I simply don't have the time for with the other things that are required of my position. And then the LibGuide statistical analysis that Franklina is currently undertaking, that's also the type of project that if Franklina were not part of our program, it probably wouldn't even, it might occur to me like it would be nice to have that information, but I don't have the skills to analyze the statistics in the same way that Franklina does. So that expertise is quite valuable. And then I feel like this is value to the student from my perspective, what the student might be getting out of this. So, of course, developing skills for future careers, getting more hands-on experience with website or video editing, or reaching out to different audiences, presentations, those types of skills, but also networking, being able to have relationships across campus. Meeting people at conferences, that type of thing that helps somebody develop as a professional in all sorts of different ways. Also having some experience with committee work, even if neither Ethan or Franklina have a journey towards higher education in particular, understanding how different types of committee structures work, different types of processes, I think is just valuable in terms of developing as a professional. And then also kind of the expectations of a professional workplace. Now, Franklina has a bachelor's degree. She did have professional work experience before beginning her graduate program, but Ethan did not. Ethan had not worked in many professional workplaces. And so some of the things that he kind of gathered were some of those expectations when you were working in a professional workplace. So that is the end of my portion of the presentation. So I'm going to let Franklina take it from here so you can hear from her. I'm going to stop my sharing of my screen and I will let Franklina talk about her experience.
Thank you very much. As mentioned earlier, my name is Franklina Ade, and I am a graduate student studying applied statistics and research methods, and also an affordable and open educational resource graduate assistant at the University of Northern Colorado. Welcome once again to today's session, and I would like to share my personal journey with open educational resource and open data, exploring how these concepts can empower researchers and students, particularly in under-resourced communities. So I would like you to join me as I delve into the impact of open educational resources and the potential to foster equitable learning and research. First, I'd like to talk a little about my background. So as a first-generation international student from Ghana, my experience with limited access to educational resources has really shaped my views and also other perspective on data accessibility and open knowledge sharing. Encountering expensive and outdated textbooks in Ghana really fueled my passion for open educational resources and their potential to bridge knowledge gaps. Joining the OER team at UNC expanded my understanding of how open education can democratize learning, both locally and globally. Currently, in my applied statistics and research method program, I see parallels between open education and also open access data, which enhances transparency and reproducibility in research. I'd give an example of how I struggled with outdated textbooks during my undergraduate study. I had to rely on shared photocopies of old editions because new ones were very unaffordable. When I discovered OER at UNC, I saw how free updated resources could help students facing similar struggles worldwide. Secondly, I would like to talk about the power of open educational resources in data and in statistics and applied statistics method and then applied research methods. So my involvement in OER advocacy has influenced how I approach data sharing and also open source tools and statistical research. UNC's commitment to integrating student voices in OER efforts has provided me with leadership, research, and networking opportunities that align with my academic and professional goals. Open educational research methods promote collaboration, ensuring that statistical findings are accessible and reproducible and also beneficial beyond academia. So while working on a research project for one of my courses I took last semester at UNC, I used an open access data set instead of priority data that required expensive licenses. This really allowed me to collaborate with international students who didn't have access to paid databases. And similarly, using open source statistical softwares like R instead of paid softwares like SPSS has really enabled more students to participate in data analysis without any financial barrier. talking about the global perspective of open educational data and equity in research. We both believe that the digital divide remains a major challenge, affecting access to both OER and research data sets in developing countries. OER can make education more equitable, just as open data initiatives can reduce barriers to conducting high quality research. So in Ghana and other developing countries like Ghana, freely available research methods, statistical softwares, and educational materials could significantly enhance research capacity. A typical example would be a student was recently conducting a research on malaria trends and had difficulty in analyzing data because SPSS and Stata were very expensive. So I believe that open source tools like R and Python combined with freely available data sets can bridge this gap, allowing students in low resource settings to conduct high quality research. Finally, I'll talk about expanding open educational research and education. So I believe that I can help merge open educational advocacy and open resource initiatives by promoting access to statistical methods and data for researchers in low resource settings like countries like my own Ghana, where I come from. So I'd want to encourage students' involvement in OER and data sharing initiatives, which is essential for shaping inclusive educational policies. Inclusive educational policies by fostering collaboration between universities, faculties, and students. I believe we can expand open educational learning and research, ensuring that the knowledge that we get benefits everyone, not just those who can afford it. At UNC, I have seen the impact of student-led OER advocacy. For instance, a campaign to encourage faculty to use open textbooks, which saved students thousands of dollars. Expanding these efforts to research by advocating for open access journals and freely available statistical training can empower students globally. By collaborating with universities in developing countries, I believe we can ensure research knowledge benefits everyone and not just those who can afford them. Thank you very much. And then this is the end of my presentation.
Thank
Thank you,
you so
Franklina.
much. Yeah, thank you, Nancy and Franklina. That was really great. We have 2 minutes left, so if anybody has any questions, they can put them in chat, or there's only a couple of us here in this room, so if you want to unmute and say something as well, that works. But that was really great. I had a question. Hopefully it'll be really quick. Nancy, you mentioned that you started and there had been a student before you. Were you filling a position that had previously had somebody in it, or were you the first one doing that work?
Yes and no. So basically, my position was newly created in the 2023 school year. But because the OER program had been growing up to that point, there was another librarian who had OER as part of her duties prior to my hiring. So I was the first one to be able to do this full time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Ziegenfuss at University of Utah, and my 2 undergraduate students presented yesterday.
Yes.
Very similar approach to yours, and this was a great presentation, thinking about how graduate students and international students could also contribute perspectives towards OERs. I think that's the most valuable lesson that I've learned since the beginning of fall semester is listening to student voices is a very different perspective than what I would come in as a librarian or a faculty member that also teaches. So it's really good to see that similar things are happening. We have similar ideas, different projects a little bit, but I really also think that the project-based approach, like we hired students as a library project assistant who didn't really know what they were getting into. They didn't know OERs, but we selected them because of their background too, graphic design, art, business student, and marketing. And I think that that really contributes. They're like, well, we want to meet with the library marketing team and we want to hear their perspectives before we put out our flyers to make sure that we're not doing anything bad. So they met with other people in the library before they were releasing things and tabling with students. So thank you so much. This was a really nice presentation.
Thanks, Donna. I had to miss your presentation yesterday. It overlapped with the department meeting. That's one of the beautiful things about virtual conferences is that they're so accessible, especially free ones. But they also, when the downside is when other things are happening in the workplace. So I'm looking forward to being able to see the recording of your session because obviously, based on my interests and what we're doing here, your session obviously caught my eye.
Yes. Everything will be recorded and available eventually. So thank you, Nancy and Franklin. That was a great presentation. And Donna, that was also a very good presentation. I was able to attend that. So we've hit time and we'll need to end since we have a quick turnaround for our next session. But thank everybody for coming. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, I'm ending it now.